Hi, everyone. My name is Vince Valenti, and welcome to the WorkAway Office Podcast. Today's podcast, I had the pleasure of interviewing Liam Swords of the Liam Swords Realty Team in Ottawa. Liam has been in the business for about 23 years. He has helped over 1,000 clients on the buying and selling side buy residential realty in Ottawa. He's also, along with his team, has been able to mentor a number of new realtors coming into the business and has been able to be very successful in doing that as well. A few things that you're going to learn from today's podcast. Number one, what are the best neighborhoods to be purchasing residential real estate in Ottawa, and what are the worst neighborhoods that you want to avoid? Two, how do you as a first-time home buyer get into buying your first home? And then third, if you're thinking about a career in residential real estate as a realtor, what are the important steps that you should consider to do before you get into the business? Liam, it's so nice to have you here, and welcome to the podcast. I've known you for a long time. I know you've been a very, very successful realtor in the Ottawa area. Tell me, what inspired you to become a realtor in Ottawa?
Yeah, gee, we're going back 23 years, I guess, Vince.
Wow.
Yeah. I had a landscaping company in Manotick, and I was running that as going through high school and university. And one of my clients was looking at selling her house. And I was in second year university at Carleton taking a BCom. And she said, Liam, the property's going up for sale. I don't know what the new owner is going to do with lawn care, but just wanted to give you the heads up. And at that point, I guess I was 19, 20. And real estate has always been something kind of talked about in our family. My grandmother, raised 6 kids in, her husband, my grandfather was away in World War II, but an entrepreneur in herself. Bought multiple properties while raising kids with her husband away at war, turned them into duplexes. And I really had this connection with my grandmother just as a young child. And real estate was always on the back of my mind as something I knew that I wanted to be around. Didn't know how it was going to happen. I'm still young. But when this opportunity presented with this lawn care client saying she was selling her house, I thought, maybe this could be the first house I buy. So I went that afternoon and talked to my Nan, and I said, Nan, there's this property in Manotick that we've looked after the lawn for the last 6 years. She's looking at selling, and what do you think? And she said, well, we need to go look at it. So long story short, went in, looked at the property, ended up buying the property. My Nan helped front the down payment on that. But 19 years old, bought my first property. I turned it into a duplex and started renting it out. And I was like, this is kind of neat. What if I just got more real estate? And then I thought, how am I going to get more real estate? Well, I need to know more property that's on the market. What if I become a realtor? So then I started to hunt and dive into what is the education process on becoming a realtor, and fast track that, ended up finishing my degree and then getting into becoming a licensed realtor back in 2002. And the rest is history.
So 23 years. I mean, that's quite a history. And so you've seen a lot. And I think I've been to one of those duplexes.
Okay. Yeah.
In Manotick. I think I've been to one of those, and Manotick is a beautiful beautiful town. I live there, so
That's
I'm a
right.
little partial about it. But that is very, very interesting. And so 23 years, you've dealt with, God, I think hundreds of buyers and sellers over that period of time. How have you seen trends? What kind of changes are you seeing? How are things different sort of now than they were sort of 10 years ago?
Yeah, lots and lots of change. Back when I started in 2002, 23 years ago, there was the MLS and there was online ability to look at property and that, but we were still using fax machines to move offers forward and sending the fax through, waiting for the signature, sending it back. Now everything's electronic signature. The ability to consume information and collect information has just gone ahead at such a rapid rate, both for the industry as realtors and also for the consumer. How it's really changed though for the buyers and sellers is more around the value um, of property itself. And more specifically, if we look at sort of the post-COVID era that we're in right now, we're talking about, auto real estate, where we see a trend of anywhere from 3 to 5% annual increase just consistently year over year. Then you get into the COVID days of, 2019, 2020, 2021, and we were seeing 18, 19, 20% uptick per year. And then, high inflation and high interest rates and all that, which then cooled the market. But what we're seeing right now is a disconnect on value, where sellers have price anchored against where homes used to sell in the good old days, that some might say in COVID, where they were selling like, 20, 30% above list price, to where it is today. I'll give you an example. We had a property recently in Riverside South that we sold. It sold for $925,000. The neighbor during COVID sold for 1.46. Wow. The neighbor. Wow. So that's $500,000 spread. Mm-hmm. And these are detached properties, nice single family, 4-bedroom. The one that sold for 1.46, it was a nicer property, Vince, but it was maybe $100,000 nicer. So, we do the math. Relative speaking, it should sell for 1.3. They sold for 9. So $400,000 difference. Thankfully, those sellers, appreciated the market. They recognize that the market is where the market is today, not where it was during COVID. And it's all relative, because they are buying in this market as well. So they said, Liam, it's okay if we only sell for 9.25. We can now buy for $1 million on our purchase, instead of maybe selling for 1.4 and then having to pay 2.2 or something. So we are seeing that, disconnect though, in that price anchoring from a seller perspective. On a buyer perspective, they're in this phase of coming out of, what can I afford? Because prices have gone up so quickly. And 20% down or 10% down or 5% down, where are they going to come up with that down payment to be able to get out of that rental rat race? So there's really two different situations that are happening right now in the industry. As a realtor, for the number of years I've been in it, it's really, depending on who you're talking to, it's a different conversation. There's a buyer conversation and there's a seller conversation. In that sense. So that's probably been the biggest change that I've noticed as of late, post-COVID.
Okay. And how the buyers that are looking at how they can afford a house, are they relying on other sources like mom and dad? How are they able to come up with the down payment to afford it?
Yeah, that's probably the biggest one right now is the bank of mom and dad that are looking to help support and get them started. There are different government initiatives with first-time homebuyer accounts, RSPs, payback. Some are using their TFSAs to liquidate as down payment, and then they can replenish those again. So that's really where it's coming from, because most of first-time homebuyers now, like if we look at the average townhome in Ottawa, you're probably sitting around $650,000 or so. The average 2-story home, you're like, I think I saw recently $750,000. So 10-20% down, like that's a lot of money for, a young graduate, young 20-year-old. Back, 19-year-old Liam, when I bought my property, I wasn't paying $750,000. I think I paid $175,000 or something for it. Also, I'm finding that the bank of mom and dad are starting to recognize that this is going to be a challenge for their kids. And what I mean by that is there's, adults right now that are saying their 40s and 50s, that their kids are 10, 12 years old. Their kids aren't at an age to be buying property. They're still young and going to school and sports and that, but they're already thinking, when Johnny is 25, and prices are now on average $875,000. How are we going to be able to help them? So what these families are doing is they're starting to buy an investment property to lock into the market today and ride that out. So they're not preoccupied with buying the property in Sandy Hill so Johnny can go to Ottawa U. They're just trying to get into the market because they believe in the auto real estate market and the upward growth they see. So as much as they can save X amount and put that away, they're getting into the market today. They'll ride the market for the next 10, 12 years. And that property might be suitable for their son or daughter, or they may liquidate that and then buy what they want. So that's an interesting trend. And, I think over the last 2 weeks, there's been 3 different past clients that have reached out to me and said they're looking at getting in the market. And, I always, ask why and how we can help. And it has nothing to do with their primary residence. It has nothing to do with, becoming, a big real estate investor. It's purely to protect the inflated price that's going to happen when their kids are at an age and stage to buy a property. They want to get in early and ride that. So that's an interesting.
That is very, very smart. Actually, it's something that I've never thought of, and I think that is a really smart way to do it. And the other thing that I think is really smart of parents. I sort of think back to my generation and my parents' generation, and typically, the way it worked was, well, I'll try to help you, but in some cases they weren't quite as well off. Maybe they're coming out of the sort of the Depression era, that sort of thing, and so you'll get your money when I die. But now what we're seeing is a trend where parents are saying, well, no, I think my children could use the money while I'm alive and while I'm younger and while they need it, rather than waiting until I'm dead. And so I think that is, that's very, very smart. And obviously one of the things that you do is that you're using your experience to educate your buyers and your sellers and so on. So how would you do that? What kind of approach are you using to do that?
It's really every buyer and every seller are looking for that same outcome. They want to, as a seller, they want to sell their property at top dollar with the least amount of stress in the shortest amount of time. As a buyer, they want to find the perfect home in a safe neighborhood at the best price. That's understood. That's universal, whether it's in Ottawa or in Kansas City. But when we're working with clients, it's really getting down to what is the why behind this move. Why are they buying? If it's a first-time home buyer, great. You want to get out of rental rat race into home ownership. But more specifically, where are you working? What community do you want to be around? What does transit look like? Where's other friends and family live? Like really zeroing in on that why is able to almost fast track some of that overwhelming thought process of how am I going to do this? Sure, I want to buy a house, period. There's a lot more that goes into that. So getting extremely clear on that why for a buyer, I use the example of first-time home buyer, but that can be anything. We meet with a family and they're buyers because they're upsizing. They're in a 3-bedroom end unit townhome and they have 2 kids, and they have extra bedroom for family to come in, so they need a bigger space. So, getting extremely clear on that. On the selling side, it's, why are we selling? To sell a property just to sell a property makes no sense. Just to put the property on the market to see what the market will fetch is just a pure waste of time. And with organized real estate and establishing price, a seller can put their home on the market at any price. It's up to your representation to help align and educate on where you need to be. So I guess where I'm trying to go with this, Vince, is sometimes sellers don't really know why they're trying to sell.
Interesting.
They feel they need to, but helping them through that and not just diving into like, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is our marketing. This is the fee structure. These are the timelines for dates. It's that initial discovery conversation of like, why are you selling? What in your home right now do you not have that you want? What are you looking for? Like, what are we going to be able to achieve in this move? And it's a step that we do consistently, all of our team out of the gate when we meet with either buyer or seller. And it's something that at the beginning of my career, I wasn't. It was just like Pop-Tart real estate. I'd be like, anyone that wanted to buy or sell, I was there.
You've just showed up and
Jump in, let's get in the car, let's go look. But being able to, really connect and align and help the buyer seller through that is just, it pays itself off in spades in the end. It builds up a lot of connection with the client and realtor relationship in that sense. But, we collect feedback at the end of all of our process, and consistently that comes up as, kind of a line item or a topic of saying, Liam, when we first met with you or, one of your team members, that first meeting helped confirm why we were making that decision. And sometimes they talk themselves out of it. We don't, they do, and that's fine. It's a big process, buying and selling real estate. And one needs to get really clear on that to be able to make sure that they're all in terms of, all in to buy or all in to sell. Yeah.
That's, again, very interesting. Have you ever had a situation where the seller not only may not know why they're selling, but they may not know where they want to go? I know I had that situation.
Yeah.
My wife and I, where we were ready to move. We were in a nice house, but the one decision that we had was we were for many years thinking about a cottage.
Okay.
Do we keep the house and have a cottage? Back and forth, back and forth. And as our kids were getting into their teenage years, we thought, this is going to be, if we buy a cottage, this is going to be a situation where the kids aren't going to want to come to the cottage. So they're going to be left at home, and who knows what teenagers will do when they're left at home. So we were very fortunate. We ended up, through the help of not a realtor, but it was the help of a friend that said, have you thought about just buying on the river somewhere and having a house and a cottage all in one? And it was like a light went on for us, and we thought, what a great idea. And that's what really encouraged us to look. So we knew we wanted to move. We wanted to do something. The house that we were in, we had, it had a smaller kitchen. We knew we wanted a bigger kitchen. So the other question was, do we blow out this entire exterior wall so that we can add to this kitchen? Do we go through a year of renovation hell, while we're doing this? And so there was these, and so we just, we were all over the map. And so, so anyway, have you had situations like that?
We have, and that usually surfaces in that first initial discovery call and meeting. And it does happen when families and soon to be buyers are like, this isn't the one, but we don't know what the one is. And when we look at the open market, there's nothing on the market that we like. So they're in this neutral position of kind of uncertainty, and it's decision fatigue. It's on their mind. What do they do? What we do in those situations is it's proven to be very helpful for homeowners. Is we identify where they're considering. Like I'll use an example. There's a buyer that wants to buy in Westboro. They're in Westboro right now, small property. They want a bigger property. Nothing's on the market. Can't find it. Debating on, do they do a renovation, bump out the kitchen, primary bedroom above, put on a garage? It's going to cost $500-600 grand. Or do they sell, and then that $500 or $600 that they would have put in, they can just add to the price and go there. But there's nothing on the market. They don't know. So what we've been doing lately on this scenario to help people through is we go back historically over the last 24, 36, even 48 months of what is sold. And the catch on this is property that's off the market. So we're not trying to dangle candy in front of these clients, but just history will likely, reproduce itself. So being able to share with these particular buyers in Westboro that over the last 48 months, there's been 27 properties that have sold. I'd like you to take a look at these 27 properties. Are there any of them that pique your curiosity? And, we'll use this example because it's in live time right now that I'm working with. And these folks got back to me and said, Liam, out of the 27, 11 of those we'd want to see. We know they're off the market, but, what this exercise has done for us is it's proven that, there likely will be a property that comes up in a period of time that matches what we're looking for. So then the next step is getting the back end property prepped and ready. Because in a market where there's limited supply, you got to be able to move fast with that, right? So when a property like this one that these folks are looking in Westboro comes on the market, that's likely going to sell. An average days on market in Westboro right now is 6 days, from time listing to time selling. That might seem fast, but there will be likely a dozen showings booked in those 6 days because there's so much demand for that. So once one can identify that, yes, history will repeat itself, there is going to be something that comes on, whether it comes on the next, 3 months or 15 months, it's going to be there. Getting the backup property prepped. So having it, staged ready. We all live in our house, not to sell, but to live in our house, but knowing what you need to do quickly to get it on the market. If there's any additional updates or renovations or minor tweaks, let's get them done now. Getting photos done, drone footage. If it's the summertime, let's take photos now. So if the property comes on in February, we're not scrambling and taking photos of snow and we can't see the landscaping and all that. So, circling back to your situation, Vince, of, cottage and waterfront and that, it's one of those things where sometimes the buyer doesn't know what they want. And if we can go back historically to see what's available for that property in Westboro, or just like expand that bubble like you did with your friend and said, hey, Vince, have you ever thought of, just putting 2 in 1 and finding that? Like, there's no cookie cutter answer to it.
It's just listening, right? It's just listening like you do. And then try to come up with a solution. Makes 100% sense.
Yeah.
So what would be from a sort of a live-in? I'm going to ask you 2 questions. One's going to be from an investment point of view.
Okay.
The other one's going to be just from a live-in residential point of view. What are the hot neighborhoods right now, and the neighborhoods that are doing well? Like I said, maybe not a lot of supply. Market value is going up, and what are the neighborhoods you want to avoid?
The ones that are hot right now are the Westboro, McKellar Park, Glebe. That sort of urban core is really hot. It's always an attractive locale, but there's just a lack of inventory right now on the market, and there's a lot of buzz right now. A lot of people looking, but just not enough inventory. So when these properties are coming on, they are gaining that excitement and attention. Areas to avoid, we just recorded a video on this, and based upon the data and that, which is no surprise, living in Ottawa for 40 plus years and selling for 23 years, but supporting that with the data that's come out, the 3 areas that are the ones that have most crime and the ones to avoid would be sort of that Centertown, Somerset area at number 1. Number 2 would be Vanier, and number 3 would be Lower Town and kind of Byward Market. There are properties in these neighborhoods that are good, so not trying to discourage anyone that might be interested in it. But if we look at crime statistics report, major crimes, those are the 3 areas that have the highest uptick on.
Yeah. Would you say the same goes for investment as well? I know it might be harder to find investment related properties in Westboro, but
it's tricky. Like the investor has typically, from my experience, a certain mindset. They're either cash flow focused or they're equity based focused. If they're an equity based focus, meaning more like appreciation, they're going to go for those hot areas of the Westboro, the Glebe, Beechwood, where they're just going to ride the trend up. If it's a cash flow oriented investor, they're going to have to get outside of the city limits because there's no way the cash flow is going to make sense in these hot areas, just with the cost of money right now and the rental allocation that they're going to be collecting. So we are seeing a number of investors that are shifting their focus to sort of the outside markets. I feel like Winchester is an interesting spot right now. There's a big hospital there. Highway 43 brings you right over to Kempville. Bank Street, Finley Creek is really blossoming out. Yeah, I feel like Winchester is an interesting spot right now.
Yeah. And I guess, as you said, with the fact that there is a hospital there, that certainly is a benefit. Yeah. Oh, that's neat. I never would have thought about Winchester. Been there many times.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Interesting.
Back in the day, like from investors, they used to say, find the church and the community is going to be there. Now it's find the Walmart or the hospital, and because they're not going to build a hospital and move it, and or Walmart is not going to just put up a Walmart and shut it down.
Right.
It does happen from time to time, but for the most part, that's sort of a slogan that some investors use, like, find me the one with a hospital, find me the one with the Walmart, and we'll buy. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And Liam, I know over the years, I know you have a team of realtors that work with you, that you've mentored, that you've trained. If there was a message that you wanted to give to someone looking to get into the business and become a realtor, what kind of advice would you give that person?
Lots.
Call Liam Swords.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is, I guess, two things. The first is having enough cash flow to be able to go, 6 to 9 months without a check coming in. If we look at the sales cycle for residential real estate, you're working with a buyer, it might take a month or two to find something. They put an offer in, 60, 90 days it closes, 2 weeks later you get paid. So agents that come in with a financial position that they're not white knuckling it, that they need the paycheck every 2 weeks, do really well. Those that come in with expectations that there's going to be a check in 30 or 60 days are, you can just feel it when you're talking to them, or they're contacting you about, an offer, or we call it internally almost like commission breath. Like they just want that deal so bad. So ensuring that you're in a financial position where you don't need the cash right away. We all need money to keep the lights on and bills to pay and food and all that. So the agents that are able to come into the position with that financial backing is good. The other is treating real estate like a job, whether that's 9 to 5, 8 to 4, whatever that is. I see many realtors over my career. They come in and they get lucky, they do a deal, they make 40 grand commission, big money, right? When we think of what's an average salary, 55, 60, make $40,000 in one deal. Then it's like Vegas, car, shopping, they don't work. The successful realtors that I see get in the business because they like houses, they like real estate, they're good in sales, but they show up every day. They have a plan. They don't let the numbers get to their head. If they make a big deal, it's great. It's just a deal. The amount of zeros or amount of commas, that's how it is. At the end of the year, there's a balance sheet. That's what you make, you get going. So I think real estate, and more specifically being a realtor, has this very attractive persona of, it's a get rich quick. It's a retirement job. It's I work when I want, where I want. And it's not that at all. It's a career. It's a job. It's an employment opportunity. It's a part of the way the world spins.
Service business, right?
We need, and I think if one comes in with that type of mindset, then you'll do fine. I think getting mentoring and coaching is always important. I know when I started back in 2002, I contribute a lot of my success because I aligned with, the number one agent in Canada. And I remember chatting with his first name is Bill. I remember saying, Bill, I'd love to learn and what can I do differently? And he's like, Liam, like, busy, busy, busy. And I finally got around him, and he ended up coaching me for about 3 or 4 years. And the amount I learned in those 3 or 4 years just like collapsed timeframes. So, any new agent getting in, treat it like a job. Don't be stressed about the money. Have 6 to 9 months of savings and find a mentor or coach, someone who has done what you want to do. Get around them. Just learn. It's not about the money at the beginning. It's about the time. If you can fast track and learn in 24 months off someone that has 10, 20, 30 years experience, in 5 years, you're going to be like agents who might be doing this solo for 15 or 20 years.
I couldn't agree with you more, Liam. I remember when I was in my early 20s, and I always had an interest in real estate as well. I still do, and I remember speaking to an individual that was back then. It was something called MURBs, multi-unit residential buildings, which you may remember, and so I was speaking to someone who was selling one. This guy was a very successful person, but I remember he gave me a really interesting life lesson, and this is very similar to what you just said. And that was when I told him that I had received advice from a particular bank manager. He said to me, Vince, how much do you think that bank manager earns every year? And I said, well, I don't know. I guess, blah, 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 right? Mm-hmm. And he goes, do you earn more than that? I go, as a matter of fact, I do. Mm-hmm. He goes, well, never take advice from someone who's not more successful than you are. And so to your point, where you have 23 years of experience, having dealt with over 1,000 clients, you are and would be a fantastic mentor for these people. And I think people completely underestimate that. So I 1,000,000% agree with what you just said there. I think that makes a lot of sense. So we've talked quite a bit about real estate, talked a little bit about your business. What is something that, on the personal side, what do we not know about Liam Swords? What do you do on your off time?
I am a little boy at heart, through and through. I love construction equipment. I love working outside. Grew up in Manotick and on an apple orchard. So just from a little boy, I would be out picking apples, cutting grass. We still have the apple orchard out in Manotick. And just people don't see that. I present and work hard in residential real estate, long hours, and very driven on that front. Live in the city, live in Westboro with my wife and son. So when they see or hear about, the steel toe boots and the baseball hat and the jeans and on the tractor, on the Kubota with the loader, on the bush hog, they're like, what? Like it just doesn't add up. But I always said that, when I retire, if I ever retire, I want to get a Case 580 backhoe and just dig holes, or when it snows, I want to plow snow. Like people don't understand it. They think I'm crazy, but legit. And we have a 2.5-year-old boy right now, little guy, Finn, and we go out to the orchard and he's still, 2.5. So he doesn't really know what's going on, but just it's full circle of being on the land, on the orchard where I was a little kid, playing and climbing the apple trees, and then going out there now with him and him sitting on my lap and cutting grass and stuff. And my dad's there, and it's pretty special.
You know what? I'm almost looking in the mirror right now, Liam, when you said that, because I've got the Kubota.
Okay.
I've got the chainsaws. I've got all the equipment. Yeah. And last night I got home. I was pretty excited because it snowed less than 5 centimeters. So I knew that our regular snow service wasn't coming. So I took the Kubota out with the snow plow and went and plowed my laneway and one of my neighbor's laneway. And, I couldn't be happier about that. So that's interesting. This has been absolutely great, Liam. I really appreciate your time today. And you've been we've been very fortunate to have you as a member of WorkAway offices. And what led you to come to WorkAway offices, and what's keeping you here at WorkAway?
Yeah, totally, Vince. And thank you for this. I really enjoyed, spending some time with you and unpacking. We see each other every day here
Every
at
day, yeah.
WorkAway, and your mentorship and business acumen. I always enjoy the time I get to spend with you.
Thank you.
WorkAway, if I go back and reflect on that, I think you and I connected back in 2017.
It's been a while.
It's in Manotick with the brokerage that I was running, and we were looking at moving into the city, and big jump from Manotick into the city, and deciding where we were going to plant our flag, and different options, and do we buy space, do we lease space, how do we set this up, what are the terms, and then came across WorkAway, and Manotick guy, and interesting, our paths didn't cross before, but getting to know you, Vince, and what your offer was for businesses, to be able to set up shop like instantly was just such an excellent start to the working relationship. I think back, moving the office from Ty Street in Manotick into Lady Ellen, which was your original office.
Yes.
I think it was in a weekend we were in, and it was business as usual. And we were with you for a few years, and then the brokerage expanded, and we ended up moving on to get another space, and still maintained connection and that with you. And then it came a point where it just wasn't working out in that office, in terms of that location, and business had grown and expanded, and we had to find the next step, and reconnected with you at WorkAway, and you had the new office in the works, and was just such an easy decision to come back and set up with you at WorkAway. And so I'm coming from close to, I guess, 7 years total, a little gap in between, but I'm a small business that had my own office ownership, to come working with WorkAway, to then going out on my own again, to now back, and there's a reason why I'm back, and the reasons are very clear. You don't need to worry about anything. Like, I show up here and coffee's hot. There's 8 different flavors. I don't have to worry about, like, this may sound odd, like, Kleenex, cream, milk, toilet paper, cleaning, internet, like, you name it, and I think that's maybe that some businesses, when they look at the offer, it might be, yeah, but we have ownership, or we have a term and it's buried in. But the offer that you've been able to set up as living proof of it, it is just it's so easy. Don't even need to think. I was doing a deal last night. It was snowing, not 5 centimeters, because you could do your snow under there, but rushing back, and like, where are we going to meet the clients and that? And I said, come on in, 1505 La Perriere, in here. I knew it would be clean. Lights are on, coffee's hot, all those things. Where having my own office, it'd be like, has it been shoveled yet? Is it clean? I got to boil water, like all these other little things. So I think the WorkAway option for us, and for a lot of businesses, is just, it's so efficient. And the terms too, like, we're not going anywhere. We're here. But the ability to, from a cash flow perspective and a commitment perspective, not feel that we're committed for 10 years or 5 years. You're a businessman. You've owned many businesses, and you've had, I'm sure, lots of different leases in that. And that is a strong pressure that we feel. So you've been able to set up a vertical for myself and a number of members here that has just removed that decision fatigue and that concern and uncertainty that we have. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for that, Liam. It's been absolutely great to have you here as a member, and your team as well. And as you said, we see each other almost every day at the coffee station or whatever. And so it's a pleasure to have you here. And I always enjoy our discussions as well.
Yeah.
So thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. And Folks, if you do want to get in touch with Liam, we're going to make sure that we post all of his contact information along with this video. So reach out, whether you are buying, selling, or want to be part of this team, reach out to Liam Swords. Thank you very much for